Okay, we should be set.
Thanks so much, Summer. Welcome, everyone. Today is June 9th. We're at a regular City Council meeting. It is 7:02 p.m. I will call this meeting to order, and Summer, please take us through a roll call.
Okay, we have Clint York, Finance Director, Mayor Emily Niehaus, Karen Guzman Newton, Moab City Council, Ronnie Duressery, Moab City Council, Carly Castle, Assistant City Manager, Joel Linares, City Manager, Halen Jones, Moab City Council, Mike Duncan, Moab City Council, and Tawny Knudsen Boyd, Moab City Council.
Thank you so much. Section 2, approval of the minutes. Minutes from May 26, 2020, regular meeting. Is there a motion? Ronnie? Oh, you're on mute. Oh, still muted. Let's see. I see you are unmuted on.
Excuse me, Mayor. I will move to approve if Ronnie does not for the moment.
Okay. Actually, before I get that motion, let's make sure we've got Ronnie's audio. So let's see. It looks like from the Zoom end, you are unmuted. So it's probably, is it possibly on yours? Do you not have audio or microphone? Okay, we want to get your microphone on. So how, let's see, it's probably something that's in your hardware land. So are you on a Mac? Are you on your Mac laptop? Nope. Okay. Who knows PCs in this world? Maybe Nate.
Mine did that one day, and I had to make sure that at the bottom my microphone was on. It wasn't on all the way.
Okay. Well,
Mayor, I just got a message from Sarah Melankoff, and she's saying that our meeting is not showing up on YouTube. Is that, I don't know how this works. Should it be showing up?
It should.
live.
Let me check.
Okay.
We're live on YouTube. I don't know if there's a delay. Let's go back to Ronnie's microphone here. So you are on a Chromebook. So let's see. If you go to the settings of the Chromebook, you want to make sure that the microphone is turned on. Let me think, how do you do that on a Chromebook? Bottom left-hand corner. Yep. And then, is that right? And then there's a cog. There should be some kind of a cog.
On a Chromebook, the cog is in the upper right.
Oh, it's in the upper right. Okay.
The mute and video controls are in the lower left on the Chrome version.
Okay. Ronnie, should we proceed? Joel, you're at City Hall, correct? Is it possible to have a computer can call Summer?
And on the subject of broadcasting, in the upper left-hand corner of my screen is the recording message, but normally there's also a broadcasting message with a little icon as well if we're live. And I'm not seeing.
I show that we're live on YouTube.
It's appearing on mine, and I checked on YouTube and I found the video.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yeah, it's appearing on mine as well.
And
right.
I'm not sure how to fix Ronnie's audio.
Ronnie, do you have access to another machine, or would you be able to swing over to City Hall if they were to set up a machine at the hall? Because
You live so far away, Mayor. I don't know that we can wait for her to get here.
I know. I'm just trying to think of some.
I could offer this. I have a second machine here Mayor, and Ronnie's not very far away from my house. If she's willing to come over here, I can set her up 25 feet away.
Well, she set the sign that said, we'll try old computers. So we will just let her do that. And we will just go ahead and we'll just have her report out last. And she can catch up through video of what she missed. So I will entertain that motion to approve the minutes. From you, Mike, if you want to just say it again.
I move to approve the minutes as recorded unless there are other pre-noted corrections.
Thank you, Mike. Is there a second to approve?
Second.
Thank you, Karen. Are there any corrections to discuss? Ronnie has one that she will submit to Summer for correction. And that seems good. Okay, then I will call, she will submit it via email and CC all of us so that we can. Already submitted, thank you. Okay, sounds good. All right, then I will call for the vote. Stay with us for just a second, Ronnie. Mike.
Aye.
Kaylin.
Aye.
Karen.
Aye.
Ronnie. Aye. And Tawny.
Aye.
Okay, motion to approve minutes passes 5-0. We're in the reporting section, so, and like I said, we'll just do Ronnie last. Let's see, I will go first. I just wanted to celebrate again that we did the swearing in of Marcy Mason as the treasurer for the city of Moab. It was a very wonderful ceremony, and I just wanted to thank this council again for the trust in my appointment. I really do think so highly of her, and I'm grateful for your vote of confidence. I attended a Southeastern Utah Association of Local Governments board meeting. I attended a CAST mayor's meeting. Who on our council is the CAST liaison?
That's me, Mayor Karen.
Okay. I was invited to do this call-in with mayors, really great people. We talked about mask policy in particular, and they, you'll find this interesting, Mike. The mayors that I spoke with actually are struggling with the desire to make masks mandatory. So even in Colorado, while it may appear that there are mandatory rules at businesses, mayors over there and councils over in Colorado are also struggling with the concept of not having the ability to make masks mandatory. And in Idaho. Let's see, what else? There is in the works a 4th of July celebration with fireworks and vendors and through partnership with the chamber. So we're gonna have meetings to come on that, but I did meet with staff to get, and we are looking to get that going. So more on that soon. Worked with the chief and staff on the proclamation, and that is on our agenda, so I won't talk much about that, but it was, I'm very grateful to our staff and very grateful to our chief. Mask availability update. So right now, the Canyonlands Copy Center has the last of the masks that were given to us to distribute. They are not the same as the masks that have the elastic. They are kind of papery tie back versions of those, but there are still some available, but not many. And so as of today, we've burned through our the gift of the 75,000 masks, other than what people have currently that they are, still dispensing. So that was helpful, but now hopefully businesses can access supply chains to get masks on their own as they want to, if they want to continue distributing. Mick bathrooms are now open downtown from 8 to 4 every day. They're not open in the evenings because of the they wanted to match the hours of the Mick shop is open, the Mick itself. They're doing a lot of like cleaning, ongoing cleaning of those bathrooms so that they're safe for our visitors. But I know there was a lot of questions about access to public restrooms downtown. And so now we do have that one, and we're not as reliant on our visitors to go to our park bathrooms. And then finally, we've all heard a little bit about this bike park. And first we received a few emails. But what I need to know tonight from all of you is what action, if any, you would like to see moving forward regarding the bike park. I did attempt to quantify the emails that we received. So the emails that we received via our city email, we had up until our meeting tonight, 37 in favor of the skills park, 11 against the skills park. And those were just emails to our city. I wasn't sure how, what other steps to do to quantify. I didn't go through all the citizens to be heard comments. I went through a few. It seemed that the people that submitted citizens to be heard, the majority of them seem to also email this council. So I didn't want to duplicate, so I figured I'd just go for our city email instead of the citizens to be heard. So I just wanted to report that as we're all trying to wrap our brains around this project and being responsive to our community. What I need to know from all of you tonight is that what action, if any, we'd like to take at a future meeting, because at this point, no action is proceeding with the project. Mike Duncan, Councilmember Duncan, asked for a public hearing. I did not hear back from any of you in one way or another about that. Also, I will go to City Hall, have comments on this. Okay.
I'm just going to make sure you can
we can hear you.
Devices, okay? Pardon me while I Mac my computer. I've changed nothing since the last time I used this for a Zoom. So anyway, continue.
Oh, that's so great. What a surprise. Yay. I love technology. That's a song from one of my favorite movies, Napoleon Dynamite. Anyway, so I need to know from all of you how to proceed, because I certainly don't want to limit us from gathering more input. But I want to do what pleases this council. So Mike, I don't know if you wanted to go first and just let me know what your thoughts are, and we can hear what the rest of the council has to say. Okay.
Okay, so this is my total report. I'll save the bike skills part for the tail end here. At the hotspot meeting last time, my last ditch attempt for funding for transit.
Wait a minute, Mike, I'm sorry. Let me just
the
be
bike
super.
skills.
Yeah, so I'm just wondering if you would like to continue with your request for a public hearing.
Yes, fundamentally, although Emily, thank you so much, and Karen as well suggested some alternative ways of doing it. I'd be happy to consider those. The sentiment I got in the meeting yesterday caught everybody by surprise, and so they would very much welcome a chance to publicly express their opinion. Emily, I got the similar numbers that you did about who's in favor of it and so forth. But just out of transparency to those folks, yeah, by default, unless we can come up with some better way to do it. And Summer, I don't know if you can put a whole flock of people into a waiting room. You could have a large number of people waiting to chime in and in effect make them appear one at a time here on our little Zoom screen. If that works, that would be something that looks closer to what we used to do. This business of writing letters doesn't strike me as terribly effective. It's not very heavily used. Even the email letters are better. But so anyway, that's how I feel about it right now. That's mostly what I'm on the fence about it. So far as the decision is concerned, I'm waiting to see about how public sentiment comes in.
Okay. Council? Ronnie?
I've written extensive emails about this, asking questions about it, because I feel it's completely inappropriate for us to be discussing a public hearing until we determine the history of what happened here and whose responsibility it is. It remains completely unclear to me if this project lies in the hands of the city or the county or the Trails and Active Transportation Group, staff, or the legislative end. I'm still trying to pick together what even happened. It seems like, you know, this definitely happened before Joel and Carly were there, and they've been trying to help me figure out some of what went on, but I don't think we can answer. I mean, I can't respond to people's emails and decide whether to offer a public hearing until I even know whether it falls in my powers and duties, given how this project happened as a city council member at this time, to have, I'm not even sure I have any power or any responsibility to this project the way it happened. And I would really like, I mean, I started writing a narrative on what I think happened. And it seems to me that probably David Everett, it was within his powers and duties to agree to support the project and support the grant that was put forward before we even had an agreement with Grand County Active Trails and Transportation. And so that's why no one ever heard about it. We never found out about it. It was never discussed. I take it. I mean, somebody could confirm for me, that would be great if it fell within the powers and duties of the city manager. But I mean, I can give that answer to the community from my research so far, as it seems like that's why it never came before us, is that they asked at Grand County Active Transportation and Trails for a letter of support from the city. That all happened before we ever had an agreement with what was originally Trail Mix and then Grand County Active Trails and Transportation. So the grant went out, the grant was granted. Somewhere in that process, we had an ILA with the county. The county holds the grant. A lot of the grant has already been spent. And it's completely confusing to me at this point. Like I said, I've been unable to get an answer about whether it's my responsibility to hold a public hearing for this point or if it belongs to the county. I really don't know. And I just know that under our powers and duties as council members, we aren't supposed to overstep other people's obligations. So I can't hold a public hearing until I know if it's even within my powers and duties to do that. But I think there are a lot of underlying questions that need to be answered, like, I imagine, and it would be great if someone could confirm, that all of this happened the way it should have without any consultation of the community or the city, to take city property and set it up for this project. And, you know, I'm not implying that anybody did anything wrong, but it would be great to know as a council member, like when and if, and I think it would be great for the community to know this, when and if city community property is dedicated to a project, is there a public hearing, or is the city council involved in that decision? Because I think just there's a lot of history here that a lot of us didn't know about that's now coming to the front. And again, I'm not accusing anyone of doing anything wrong, but again, I can't answer those questions about whether a public hearing is appropriate till I know whose job it is, and who really has the authority to have a hearing in the first place. And then I want to make sure that we understand what happened, and that if we think that this didn't happen the way it should have, that any future decisions about city property are made following a very clear process. I mean, I just feel like everybody's getting the short end of the stick here, and nobody had bad intentions, but there was either an absence of communication or poor communication where all of us are just finding out about this now, and we're trying to figure out what to do because it's kind of put everybody in a pickle.
I think that is, those are really valid questions. and really good points that you made, Ronnie. I think we're all kind of like, what is our role and our responsibility in responding?
Do you want us to address these questions as they come up, or is this just, how do you want?
Well, I think so, because I think we just need the answer, because ultimately, really, as succinctly as we can, this council just has to decide, what and if we're going to do to put it on our agenda for action, because we're not taking any action tonight. It's not on our agenda for a discussion, other than I need to solicit from this council what, if any, action I need to put on an agenda. So yes, please answer to the best of your knowledge, Joel, some of those questions.
And those are all outlined in my email if you guys want them. I mean, I can find the date, but I mean, a big part of this question is the county is on the grant. So I don't even know, like, does the county own this now? I mean, there's so many questions here.
So first, this is a trail mix project. It's not a city project. The city's involvement comes from financial backing and from the use of our property. Where the amount being used for the bathrooms was under $50,000, it was within the city manager at the time's purview to be able to spend that and allocate those funds. And second, according to state law, where the property was not being transferred, it was being used, there was no requirement to have a public hearing. If that property had been transferred to Trail Mix or given to the county, anytime we transfer a public asset, we're required to have a public hearing. And by law, we would have had to have had one. Now, since Carly and I have been here, it has been made exponentially clear to us that public hearings are important, that the fact that it's not required by state law is not reason to not have one. And that we know that there's a broader public process that's expected from this council. And we've tried in our projects to make sure that we're doing those things and making sure that that's happening. But there's just going to be this window where we're still dealing with some projects that were done before we got here, and we're going to have to just work through them. So that said, I don't think anyone did anything wrong. I think everything was acted upon by the proper person within the city and within their authority. Now, that said, it is a trail mix project. It is approved. Well, go ahead, Kayla.
So I'm under the impression that Trail Mix is this interagency group, but then the county has their active transportation sub-department, and that's actually who is the staff working on this.
Yeah,
and at the Trail Mix today, they wanted to be clear that it wasn't a Trail Mix project.
Okay. And that sounds great. To me, it's a county project. I mean, that's where we're at with it. So your options would be going forward, if you wanted to not participate in the project, would to be violate the interlocal agreement that this council approved to act on this project. And then second would be to pull the use of the land. Both of those would be in violation of the grant and the ILA. I don't think it's too weighty. I mean, obviously, it's not good relations to violate agreements that we have with other interlocal agencies, but I don't know that there'd be a lot of damage to the county other than the loss of what we've put into trying to get it to this point. There could be some potential legal liability there. I would think that we could work that out. I don't know that it would get to that point, but it is a potential, and so it's something to consider. Our options, though, would be to our main way to stop the project, if that's what this council so chose, would be to say we're no longer going to allow you to use our land. That'd be the easiest way to stop it for us.
So then the question becomes to the council, would you like action on a future agenda for that? Or are you okay to proceed without any action on this item? Kaylin, then Ronnie.
I'm okay proceeding without action. I feel like I was adequately informed. This was brought to us in a regular city council meeting months ago when we discussed the budget implications based on the information that's been provided to us by Maddie and the letters of support that have been received from multiple organizations, as well as the outpouring of support from the community, I feel like the point of having a public hearing is to get input that we might act on. And this project is far along. I believe it's a good project, and I don't want to change course. If there's input that can be constructively integrated into the design within the budget and timeframe, then I would welcome some mechanism for doing that, which may mean just Maddie and the designers and whoever else is involved at the staff level hearing that and integrating it. But I don't feel like we as a council need to take action.
Tani?
I will echo what Kaylin said. I don't feel like information wasn't put out. There was a public engagement. It may not have been as robust as some people would have liked it to have been, but it was there. Nobody acted improperly. This isn't typically the kind of thing that triggers a public hearing. A public hearing is a legal requirement and due diligence, and it's generally done when someone else's property is being impacted, not when the city's property is being impacted. I recall voting on the ILA. I don't recall exactly when, but I feel like I was informed. I feel like I acted in good faith and with the information that we had at hand. I think it's really bad form to get this far into a project, this far into design, almost to construction, and have pretty much a handful of people say, I didn't know, I don't like it, and derail it, when people have put hours and hours of work into it and ordered materials, and then all of that just sits there. That doesn't make us a good partner. And I'm fine moving forward with no further action.
Other council members?
Mayor, am I on mute? Sorry. No, I'm not. No, good. Okay. I too am for moving forward with this project. I mean, there was 2 open houses last summer, and I feel like we did have information that we were going into an agreement. And I mean, I think it's going to be a great asset to this community, and I think it adds, there's concerns that this is going to be like a tourist mecca. I do not believe that is the case. I think this is an area for small children, and being a parent who raised 2 small children in this town, I am all for having new opportunities for kids to get out and play. And I think it's a great location. Right now, every time, I go over the bridge, it's like, I don't know if I'm going to find somebody on the pathway who's inebriated, if they're going to be nice or not, or smoking or drinking, and having that discussion with my kids has always been pretty uncomfortable, and you try to acknowledge that there's homelessness, and there's public intoxication. This is an area that is constantly called on for EMS and our police department. And I think if we can add new places where people can, and especially our small children can go and play. And for me, I don't go to Anonymous Park because I'm actually intimidated by it. And I've been riding my bike for over 30 years. I would love to be able to help smaller kids try to do a wood bridge or a little rock formation. And it's something that I'm always advocating people getting on bicycles at all ages. And so this would be a perfect place for locals to go and play. So yeah, I'm for moving forward.
So Yeah, yeah,
Mike, go ahead.
yeah. I'm going to respectfully disagree with my colleagues here. In theory, yes, the town should have paid attention to what was going on. I remember the better part of a year ago when Maddie came in front of us the first time. I remember being pretty fuzzy about exactly what it was that was being proposed and exactly where it was going to go. But the interlocal agreement sounded like it was a reasonable thing to do to build something. But the particulars that are irritating people right now were not available to us at that time. Certainly didn't stick in my mind. It makes no difference what you guys think about whether the park is a suitable location at the present location or not. What matters is the public is informed and they've had a chance to vote in. And for that reason, I do wish to have a public hearing or something similar, whether it's legally required or not. I think not to do so would be irresponsible and not transparent. Whether or not anything will change or not is yet to be determined. Right now, I would say that right now the opposition to it's running 3-1. That's not a good sign for the people who are opposing the park. I will add, as you guys saw in a letter I wrote some time ago, that I am afraid of the area being dominated by out-of-town visitors, and I will not vote for this park without a commitment on the part of public websites and bike shop owners and employees to refrain from mentioning this park to visitors. Word will get around nonetheless by word of mouth. There will be visitors there, but I do not want to encourage, if I can certainly avoid it. So that would be one of my stipulations. And so anyway, that's the way I feel about it, Mayor.
Ronnie, go ahead.
So I just wanted to double check with you, Mayor, and with Lori. Like, are we okay discussing this since it wasn't on the agenda this way? I mean, obviously we're not.
We are not.
I just wanted to check that we weren't.
Lori, go ahead and yeah.
Right. So what the question from the mayor to the council is, do you want this on a future agenda? And so whatever information you're providing goes to that question, which is, should it be on a future agenda? So you're not taking any action right now. So it did not need to be on today's agenda. The question really only is from the mayor is, do you want it on a future agenda for action? And so that is something that you can give her that input today on.
Okay, so
yeah, and let me just respond further to that. So we're going to have things pop up all the time where the community is going to say, I love this, I don't love this. We're going to get comments from the community, and then we're going to have to say, well, do we want to take action on it? So that's what we're doing with this item here. As it's a project that's already been approved moving forward. The thing that triggered any kind of further reconsideration was that Maddie gave a presentation to let us know what was happening. And some people said that they didn't like what was happening. So here we are.
I'm just going to add that I don't have a problem with the park. The process bothers me a little bit, but I understand that nobody did anything wrong. I would feel better if we as a group settled on a future process for maybe projects that are proposed for city property, just so as Joel was saying, we seem to be a group that wants public hearings or more outreach. So I guess I don't need an action item, but I would love an information item that just kind of writes up why we think this happened the way it did, just to help the public understand, and then with some kind of proposal about how we think similar things will be handled in the future. I mean, obviously we've gotten a lot of input from people. Some people say our general plan supports this use. Some people say it doesn't. Some people say this is completely incompatible with the parkway. Other people say it's compatible. And I think one of the problems that we're left with is, to my knowledge, we don't have any documents, historically that put on record how the parkway was supposed to be. So I don't really know that we can answer any of that. I think it would just help people help residents know moving forward, because a lot of them seem to feel like they should have had input. If we just establish one way or another, like the either the city's gonna, decide on its own, or the city moving forward would like to have public hearings. And I guess I'd be interested in Joel's opinion. Like, I totally understand the former city manager did this within their powers and duties, but I guess I see, pros and cons to having the city manager just decide that, because if we had had more information exchange, then maybe, we could have passed it on to these residents we thought might want to know most about it. So
I would fully support that. This is the second one of these that I've inherited since I've been here. The other one.
So sorry. I'll send you a fruit basket.
Yeah, no worries. That's the gig. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying there's got to be a better way to do this, because in a year I've sat in this chair. This is the second time we've had property pop up that we're using, and it is public trust land and it is their property. And I think that there should be more public input into how we're using some of that. And obviously, we don't do anything that gets unanimous support. It doesn't matter what we're doing, it doesn't get unanimous support. So there's always going to be, anywhere from a handful to a lot of people who don't like what we're proposing. So, but I would like to get that out there earlier in the process, so as we get to where we are with this project, where we're literally ready to break ground and build it, that we're not having this problem now. We're having it in the beginning before we spend all that time, money, and man hours getting to that point.
Can I just make one last request? I mean, if we were going to have something informational, I don't know if this comes more on Maddie's end, or if it's easy for us to just put some bullets in, but it seems like some of the questions that were asked over and over were, why wasn't this done at Anonymous Park? And I know there were financial reasons for that. I just didn't know if it would help to lay out some of those bullets, or also, some people have raised the concern of big cottonwood trees and their tendency to drop limbs. And is this safe for small children? So just, some of those, I was just thinking maybe it just helps to answer those so people know that we have addressed them.
Tawny?
I would support what Ronnie is advocating, that, maybe we need an informational piece that lays out these processes a little bit better. Different personalities interpret things differently, and it just kind of helps us be all on the same page. And I had another point, and sorry. Maybe in lieu of a full-blown public hearing, maybe we just leave this open to comment for a certain date. I know Maddie is under, some sort of a time frame with the grant, but maybe we leave it open for 10 more days for public comment, and just let those comments come in however people choose to send them. And if anything overwhelming happens in that week or 10 days, we can look at it before our next meeting.
I think what Ronnie was saying earlier, though, is like, where should comments really be forwarded? Should they be forwarded to us, the city, or to Maddie, to the, to the county? I don't know that we want to leave ourselves open to further comment, only because as we're illustrating, it's not really within our power, unless we wanted to, shift, which it doesn't sound like we do. So
the only reason I said that, Mayor, is that in the email that Maddie sent this afternoon, she had indicated that Grand County Transportation and Trails had told people to direct their emails to us.
Oh,
so,
okay.
I kind of think they've been told that. So in this instance, I think we ought to just let that stand and take the emails or the letters, or however they come. But that was my understanding, is that they had said, please send them to the city council.
Okay.
And I think if this body is the body that's considering action, or even remotely considering taking the action, they may as well come to you rather than go through them, come to you. I think it'd be easier for them to come to us and then provide them to them. We're the ones requesting them.
Okay. And Karen, yeah.
I asked earlier, just because in this age of, people feeling like they're, potentially not being heard, and, we're not meeting in together in a one space, is it possible? Because there was so many educational tidbits in the emails that we got from, we had an overabundance of educators who actually responded to, you know, the positive things about having the bike skills park. And I mean, it was enlightening to me, you know, the information that we received. Like, is there a way to share these emails so that other people can kind of see where the dialogue is? I mean, I think that that might be helpful, and I don't know. But
I mean, one thing that we could do is go through the emails that were sent to us, and without attaching them to a particular name, we could collate the comments. That would be a lot of busy work, and that would probably be the work of, you know, one of us council members, since it's the email that comes to city council. Would anybody, Ronnie?
I'm willing to do that. It might be nice if there's a second council member who'll just look over it to make sure I don't leave anything off. And then I don't know, you guys tell me, is that the kind of appropriate thing to have as like an info page on the city website, or is it something more that we would hand over to Maddie that she could put on an info page?
Oh, good question. I wonder if Maddie has a page. Do you know, Kaylin?
Well, I looked today because I had that same response. Is like, where can people go to find this information other than going through Maddie's thorough but long presentation to council? And so it seems like it would be nice if on the county active transportation webpage, they posted the presentation and the plans, and just so that that base documentation was out there. But as far as the comments, since they were directed to the city, it seems like then maybe they should reside on the city webpage, and there could be cross links between the two, since it is a joint project.
Okay, so collating the emails for and against in just a document, not identifying the sender, just because we would like to have comments, not individuals. Yeah, Ronnie?
I guess if I'm volunteering to do it, it just helps me to know if people want me to like cut and paste text and just put them in the order I receive them, or do you want them separated into pro and con? I mean, we can talk about this later, but I just do it however you guys want it. And then, you know, a PDF or Word.
Clear too, that if you choose to put them online and remove the name of the sender, those emails are public record. Anyone can grandma request them and get the name. So I get why you would do that, but at the same time, I want to make it clear to this council that they're not protected. If someone requests them, they'll be given them.
Right. I honestly feel like that's a lot of busy work, but I understand why you're suggesting it, Karen, because the comments do have a lot of good, juicy information. So if Ronnie, you're comfortable doing that busy work, then let's put that document together, and then we'll post it in the appropriate place, whether it be the city website or the trails. Yeah, Karen?
I would be her second if you get that second council member.
Okay, thanks.
And this is also just, you know, a discussion. This is not the only topic where, you know, of interest. And so I'm just curious, like, how we can, as a body, try to, you know, I mean, we get a lot of email on various things. So, you know, being able to share people's comments, I think it can be a useful tool. And I'm just wondering if I don't know how.
I'd like to caution you too, you're setting yourself up for a lot of work in the future. If people like this, you know, you could, I mean, I don't think you want to commit yourself to doing this kind of thing on every issue that comes up. This is a lot of work.
Here's what I'd like to say here so that we can move forward with our meeting. I would like to get feedback from Lisa on this topic regarding community engagement around issues like this. And maybe we need to, again, talk about our community engagement plan when issues come up, what's appropriate for a public hearing, what's appropriate for a town hall, what works as just a post on social media, what could be an agenda item. So maybe we just need a refresher for that. And let's let Lisa think on the suggestion of turning emails into comments that are public facing. And yes, Ronnie?
So just as a final, as you close this, can you just recap for me?
I am, yeah.
Not to have an action item, but are we having another follow-up or something?
So from what I hear, that we are not putting anything on our agenda for the Bike Skills Park. That essentially Maddie has thumbs up from this council to proceed. And that direction is actually to staff to come to council with a plan of how we approach the leasing or the use of city property as it is requested. Does that sound right, Joel, to you? And if it takes a couple, more than just next council meeting, that's fine, because we know that you've got a pile of good work that you've been up to. And
it will be a challenge to do, but it's something we need to do. It's going to be for a change of use of city property. Obviously, if we sell property, then that automatically kicks all that stuff into place as it is. So it'll be more for a change of use. If we're repaving a road and not expanding its use, it's really laying down the lane, then I don't think that's something this council wants to see every time we fix a pothole and we're messing with city property. But anytime we do a change of use, an expansion of that use, I think that's something that needs to come forward.
And so just a process for that is the direction to staff. And that's where I think we are with this item. Oh, Ronnie, did you have one more thing?
Just one last thing. So Joel, I had started, just this response to people who had been writing me about this, just to help them explain what I understood about it. And obviously after tonight, I understand more, but is that something I can send to you? Are you comfortable looking at that just to let me know if that looks accurate after tonight? I don't know if the rest of the council wants to see it. I can copy you, but anyway, it was just kind of my attempt at an explanation to people from what I understood had happened.
I'm adding it to my list of things from here, and I'll get it to you first thing in the morning.
Okay. I'm embarrassed to say that that's it for Mayor's report. I do not want to be held accountable for a very long report. So I think I was pretty short up until that last item.
Well, we put the time in the minutes, Mayor, and I think you just set a new record. I'm just saying.
I am embarrassed, but thank you, Council, for going through that conversation so that I had clear direction of what to put on the agenda. Thank you very much. And I am done. And next up is Ronnie.
Oh boy. Okay, I'm just going to give you guys a quick, not a lot of stuff from EMS, but I thought it was interesting that we had, not a big surprise, but a Memorial Day weekend. We had one day, Saturday the 30th, where we had 13 calls. So big day there. And in the most recent week's report, let's see, we averaged 4 to 6 calls each day from June 1st to 7th. And I don't have like percentage comparisons from last time, but I thought you'd be interested to know, to their staff, they just put a reminder that, of the 12 confirmed COVID cases we've had in Grand County, all of them were residents. So they were reminding their staff, but I think it's good for all of us to think about too, just because you're interacting with someone in town, don't assume that it's all safe and you can give up your social distancing and other things. That might be about it in terms of boring you with my things. Let's see, I was going to mention, I probably spent most of my time writing emails, reading emails, trying to find my notes like I'm doing now. Let's see, I think a lot of us were involved with the city, county, Castle Valley meeting about timed entry and the arches, Canyonlands phase planning. I did take part with some members of the county on a June 1st call with Representative John Curtis about that. Spoke to some media about that and Black Lives Matter. I wanted to thank the staff and EMS for their presence at the march on Friday, and I wanted to thank the community. I think everybody did a great job, and I just wanted to applaud the youngsters who are out there. And in case anybody missed it, because I know we're all just totally drowning in email, just a heads up to colleagues if you missed it. I saw that the Mountain 2030 collaboration series, a lot of us went to the climate change program that they did in Park City, is having an online series about net zero progress in the current COVID climate on June 16th. So that should be in your email box. That was it.
Thank you so much, Ronnie. Who's next? Mike.
Thank you, Mayor. A hotspot, Karen will probably talk more about a little bit later, but basically they torpedoed my last ditch attempt to procure some sort of funding for operational transit expenses for a couple of years, saying they just simply don't do op funding, period. So much for that. We talked at long length about downtown improvements. And in point of fact, we took a tour around downtown area, which I thought was great. Carly came along on that as well, and examining things on a block by block basis. And when we left, a proposal was made. I would like to see a staff prepare what amounts to, say, option A, B, and C for each block, ranging from do nothing to do the low hanging fruit to something more aggressive. And I'm a personal fan of doing a low hanging fruit and so forth. One interesting thing that I think Carly agrees with me on is that, and this bicycle is part of an interesting example of it. For example, one of the blocks that was under consideration was First East from center to First North, I think it was. Nice wide street, candidate for angled parking where more tourists would go and so forth. And I can just sort of imagine the reaction that people who live on that street are going to have more visitors parked on their front yard. In other words, pushback from neighbors who like their peace and tranquility in town and won't be very very happy about having more tourists parking in their front yard. So right off the bat, I think we should expect that kind of pushback, which won't appear until much later, but be cognizant of that right off the bat. But nonetheless, we continue to work on that. I met with a couple other people. This is a water aquifer type questions. The groundwater management plan process is still going, and it will start sooner or later. Some folks are concerned that if San Juan County continues to grow, and particularly if you get another 500 acre feet of water for a second well, that'll more people moving in, blah, blah. And they think that whatever Utah's first in time, first in right law reads, that there's no way in heck they're going to cut off people who already have water flowing to their houses, regardless of the fact that they have junior water rights and we have a drought. So those kinds of concerns were expressed. I think that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Tani? Uh-oh, you're muted. Try again. Start over.
Sorry about that. Housing Authority did not have a meeting last month because of lack of agenda items. Nor did the museum have a meeting, lack of agenda items, but the museum executive board put out a proclamation.
Uh-oh. Is it just me or is Tani frozen? Tani's frozen? Okay. So glad it's not me. Let's see. I'll give just a couple few seconds, and then we can circle back. Oh, I just want to make jokes. I shouldn't say anything like Bueller.
I can't tell. A few people may be frozen. Oh,
oh, okay. We lost her. She's going to come back. In the meantime,
I think we lost Lori and Carly too. So.
Oh.
We lost a couple of people. I'll watch for them.
So all these other groups don't have enough agenda materials to have a meeting. Other people are just getting to fall out. Like, where's my luck, Mayor?
Yeah, right. Oh, let's just, why don't we just give them a second? I bet they'll just call right back in.
Just when we think we have the hang of this technology thing.
You know, the internet, you can't trust it. You go
Well-
online, you think you're going to be able to do your work, it shuts you down.
I think we're getting close to the number of meetings we're having to hold this way, so hopefully.
Do you think your computer has the coronavirus?
Oh my God.
Definitely got a virus.
right.
But I'll address that when I give my update.
I think since she didn't pop right back on, let's go ahead and have Karen, do your report. And then when she pops back on, we'll have her go. We can have Kaylin go after you if she's not back yet. Okay.
They're in the waiting room. Just a sec.
Oh,
So
never-
start, not start.
Don't start. And you're back. Welcome back, Tony.
It went completely black.
Okay. Back to you.
Where was it? Okay. And the museum put out just a good proclamation of their mission. And Care Center has not had their meeting yet this month. I believe it is Thursday. That's it.
Okay, well, thank you and welcome back. And Karen.
So I had an airport board meeting. It was actually held at the county building, and it was also offered via Zoom as well. So for those who didn't want to go to the county, there was a lengthy discussion of offering free rent for tenants at the airport that were not able to conduct business since COVID-19. In the end, we made a motion to defer 2 months of rent payments until the end of the year. So FEMA is also they have distributed face masks for airports across the country. Candyland's National CNY will receive 2,300 masks for passengers, and so that's great. It'll be also can be used for employees too, but it's aimed at passengers. This some airport tidbit. Fascinating info real quick. Department of Transportation reported that in April, US air carriers consumed 447 million gallons of fuel. In April of 2019, that figure was 1.5 billion gallons. And on Tuesday, this last Tuesday, TSA screened 267,742 passengers, which is 88% lower than more than the 2.2 million travelers the same day a year ago. It's big differences. At CNY, we had 30 enplanements in April, so 30 passengers. And in 2019, last year, we had 1,914. And for May, our numbers were up a little bit at 245 passengers. And in 2019, there was 2,400. There has been a small increase in the last couple of weeks, but numbers are definitely down. We had our Arches Hotspot Regional Committee meeting, and Main Street improvements was the big topic of discussion for that meeting. Bulb outs and at the end of blocks and medians and no left turns. There's lots of discussion happening. There was some discussion about parking elimination on Main Street, and the committee was trying to get clear as to what UDOT's intentions are in the future. And there was quite a bit of support from the committee to look at getting modeling studies done if Main Street parking was actually eliminated. So, and then we had our hotspot committee, the off Main Street field trip, and that was just about, like Mike discussed, off Main Street parking and redesigns to add parking on those side streets and the pros and cons and challenges and potentials. So it was a good meeting. We had the joint city county. Yep.
About that, is there
Yes.
any discussion about working on the ingress and egress of the city lot, the former site of the structure, just to make it more like when we had all the comments, it was like, we don't even know how to get in there. Sometimes we
Right.
turn into State Farm, like the ingress and egress is really complicated. Is there any conversation about fixing that with hotspot funding?
There has not been a discussion, but that's definitely something that could be brought up. I mean, because it's definitely an asset of having that lot right there. And to make it more accessible makes sense for sure. So I will make note and bring that up. So then the joint council's meeting about the endorsement of a reservation system at Arches. And then, I just received news today. This is great news for small businesses. So the SBA has made some positive, the Small Business Administration has made positive changes to the PP. Was a bill that was just passed on Friday. It's the Paycheck Protection Program Flexibility Act of 2020, the HR 7010. And there was numerous new changes. Emily, I discussed some of the things with you, trying to hit, the federal legislators with some information, and it seems like they have taken note. Some of the changes, they've extended the maturity of loans from 2 years to 5 years. It extends the covered period of forgiveness from June 30th to December 31st. It extends the covered period from 8 weeks to 24 weeks. It allows borrowers to use 60% of the loan for payroll costs and 40% for debt obligations, which is really great news, especially in our community where we didn't have that rebound, and there's some businesses are really concerned about not being able to bring employees back at full capacity, and having to figure out if either it's going to a loan or if it's going to be a forgiven grant. So great changes with the PPP, and that's all I have.
I don't know why I didn't mention this, but at the subcommittee meeting, there is still commercial rental assistance for businesses. They still have a big pot of money available. Can people you were talking about renters at the airport, if it's commercial and it's rental, they might be able to apply for that rental assistance.
It's interesting you brought that up, because I sent, when we were in our meeting, I gave everybody the link to actually apply for that, because it was still available last week when we had our meeting, and so so hopefully some folks will take advantage of that as well.
And it's the best acronym, Commercial Rental Assistance Program.
Crap.
Okay, thanks for bringing that up about the PPP too. It is a total big deal. So thanks for bringing that up.
Yep.
Okay, thank you so much. And Kaylin.
I will start by contesting that assertion that that's the best acronym ever, because I attended a NAR meeting, GNAR, which is the Gateway and Natural Amenity and Resort Community Group, which is a joint project, USU and U of U. So sort of like CAS, but with a little bit more of an academic perspective. Communities and academics networking to address the challenges that we all face. This was focused on policies and practices for reopening. So various interesting tidbits. At the Solid Waste District, we just did our annual audit. So I had a couple meetings with the auditors around that, and we're doing better. They really didn't find much in our bookkeeping to critique. And then up at the Moab landfill, we've stockpiled a massive pile of organic material. And just this past week, 8,000 cubic yards of organics was processed into mulch, which will be for sale and won't be going into the landfill. So good news there. I attended the last county council meeting. They had applications for.
Wait, hold on. I'm going to interrupt you because back to the solid waste district. I didn't know if you wanted to speak to the letter that we received from Evan, or if you had conversations with him, or if you're waiting for that agenda item.
Well, yes, I have quite a few conversations with him. And what for, let's see, another meeting that I wasn't going to mention was a strategy meeting, which was like a non-quorum meeting with Evan, just because there's various sort of long-term things that are up. Monument is developing their own landfill in Mac, which they intend to use for their operations in Grand Junction, but as a backup for their Grand County operations. Just because in the past, Klondike has closed for weather occasionally. The district has done a lot to improve the roads there and all-weather access. But currently we do have an agreement with them about pricing if they have to take their divert to a landfill in Carbon County. And so they intend to use this Mac landfill instead. But naturally that has caused concern, especially to the district, if they might someday want to take material waste that currently goes to Klondike to Colorado, but that doesn't make a lot of economic sense given the trucking distances. But nevertheless, we are thinking about the stability of the district and the waste flows that support the landfills and basically the investments that have been made in these landfills, that then we have to keep using them in order to pay the various equipment loans and so forth. And then sorry, I got slightly off track there. So I don't know how much there is to say, just that the district should be involved. I mean, it could be I think Monument as a, we're happy to have Monument take organics up to Moab for processing there. I would say the main thing is that they need to be clean, as Evan pointed out. During a previous batch of organics processing, it wasn't well sorted and there was metal in it, and it did a number on the tub grinder that we had contracted, and that was very expensive, and there was just too much stuff in it to be processed. So if we go to some sort of large scale organics processing, regardless of who hauls it and who processes it, as with recyclables, keeping it clean is important. It makes it a lot more valuable. But we can talk about that more at the item itself. Sorry, Joel?
And I talked to Evan today on the phone about that and the fact that we're just starting this process, and tonight we're looking more for whether or not there's support from council and like kind of the direction we want to go. And he is going to participate if we develop something and start going forward. He plans on being a part of that.
Great. So I attended the last county council meeting, and they had a couple of applications for projects up in the North 191 corridor to be brought into their overnight accommodations overlay, which it seemed like they turned them down, but they also directed their planning commission to proceed with haste to develop a plan for that area to have some more quantitative, or at least solid standards for what they want to see. So that was just interesting to me. They had like taken the overlay approach, but now they're kind of looking for an area plan. So it'll be interesting as we move forward as a community. Attended the Housing Task Force meeting, and that was, we spent some time following up from the presentation from the incremental development that we saw, and possibly helping with articulate some ideas for the city, as well as also for the county. I attended the Moab Area Travel Council meeting, but they had gone back to a in-person meeting, but they didn't announce that until I was already planning to be out of town. And so they were in one room, but distanced with masks, and I was on speakerphone, and it didn't work that well, and I couldn't hear that well, so I can't actually tell you that much what happened. I attended the trail mix meeting. I was curious what they would have to say about the what would be said about the skills park, but in some ways, more interestingly, there was a sensitive discussion about e-bikes and the BLM public comment period, which closed today, and then also some discussion about the extent to which social media is bypassing agency abilities to direct people, specifically Cowboy Jacuzzi appearing on all trails, which is a bummer. The EA for the December oil and gas sale just came out. I haven't read it yet. I'm sure it'll be good pre-bedtime reading. And I also attended the hotspot meeting, and just to follow up, there's sort of, it seems like this basic tension because we want to do all this good stuff with downtown, and UDOT really wants to reduce congestion. And so it seems like part of the challenge is getting UDOT to articulate what exactly how much congestion reduction they need, how much friction reduction, what that looks like, and quantify it for us, just so that we know what we have to deliver on that side, and so that we can also get them to support other things that maybe are more on the economic development side of the hotspot equation. So it's an ongoing dialogue, and hopefully UDOT will get clearer with us about what they need and what we can do. That's what I got.
Thank you so much, Kaylin. We are now in our agenda and section 4, administrative reports. I just want to let you know that I did contact Jen Sadoff, CEO of the hospital, and Orion Rogers, the health department's the leader of the health department. I'm not sure what his title is. Neither could attend tonight, but also felt like there was really no new news to report. So I did reach out to them, but they weren't able to make it. I just wanted to say that. And Joel, to you. You are muted. Sorry, you're muted. We've all done it this meeting, so.
The COVID update, I think that's pretty accurate. Currently, we have 0 active cases again, so that's great news. Hopefully we can keep it there. The COVID response from the city aspect is we're currently in yellow. We're following the yellow guidelines that's set forth by the state. We're taking temperatures of all employees daily. We're wearing masks. We're following social distancing. We're following the rules that have been set out. We are working diligently to get City Hall reopened, the MRAC reopened, the MARC reopened, and the gym reopened. We are tentatively shooting for a reopening date of City Hall of June 22nd, the MARC and the gym also for June 22nd. We have construction going on here in the building, which I've talked about over the last couple of meetings, and it's progressing and we're getting close to getting it done. We were hoping to maybe open the 15th, this coming Monday, but it's not looking like it's quite going to be ready yet. So June 22nd is what we're thinking. The MRAC we're shooting for June 26th. That one's not quite as certain as the 22nd. We have significantly cut costs at the MRAC, and we are trying to operate it in a way that it comes a lot more even in the books, maybe with the numbers that we get in the summer months, with the way we're going to try and go forward, that it will even actually be in the black a little bit for a little while until those numbers start falling off. So that's what we're shooting for. It is going to be open to reduced hours. Initially, the gym will not be open and there won't be aerobic classes and those things that historically people are used to, but as we get it going and get it operating and revenues start returning and we're able to revamp staff, we'll work towards getting that brought back to a level of service that the community is used to. But the June 26th is the date we're shooting for. We're definitely trying to get it open by the 4th of July. It's just a matter of lifeguards and how many we can get to come back who haven't moved on to something else. And if we can get a lot of those, then that June 26th becomes really achievable. If we can't, and we have to retrain or train new lifeguards, then that date may get pushed back just a little bit because of the training process. So, but we have put a lot of time and effort into those dates, and that's what we're working towards. It will be, right now we're projecting it'll be open 5 days a week. We're still working on that schedule, and we'll go from there. So with the reopening of City Hall, that will take place on June 22nd. It will be open to the public. We will still be wearing masks, interacting with the public. We are installing face shields in areas that are high traffic public areas, and so that's happening. And yeah, we'll be going forward with that. So that's kind of the date we're looking for there. Our next city council meeting is June 23rd. That will be the day after we reopen City Hall. The concern we have as a staff with returning to live meetings is, as long as we're yellow, there is a cap on the number of people we can have in that room based off social distancing and the numbers that are out there. So I think we'll be able to have a live meeting come the 23rd, but if we're not moved to the green status by the state, I would recommend that we continue to have them via Zoom until we get into a green setting under those guidelines. So,
And Joel, I just want to say that I agree with you on that, I think that it is important for us to recognize that sometimes City Hall and our chambers get quite full. And if we're counting the number of people coming in and then saying, sorry, you can't come in, that could get real messy. And so waiting until green for chamber, having meetings that are chamber, I think is appropriate.
At the rate they've been changing it, I would think we would be green, but if you're watching the numbers, I wouldn't be surprised if we're not. It's really up in the air right now. So we're going to prepare to be open, and we're going to prepare to be able to have a live meeting, and we'll just take it and play it by ear until we get that information more concrete. So is there any questions about any of that stuff? Ronnie, what's up?
So Joel, I imagine you might not have it yet, but as people ask us questions about the pool reopening and, what might be available and what might not, where would you like us to send them? Or are you anticipating there might be some kind of press release at some point that explains to them what'll be open when?
Yeah, we're in the process right now of trying to do rehires with a lot of the people that we laid off initially, way back in March, that have been gone since the pool closed on the 15th. And so until we get that kind of finalized and figure out what our number of return lifeguards are versus the number of newly trained lifeguards are, at that point, it'll be more concrete. We'll have a definite answer, and we'll be able to put out on our webpage a notice. And the MRAC has some social media presence as well. We'll put it out there as well.
I'd like the council as a whole to have more opportunity to weigh in on whether or not we go to in-person meetings. It seems like there are potentially significant health risks, and we may not be aligned with our own risk tolerance with what the state is. And I'd just like to have the opportunity to discuss, weigh in more as we make that decision.
I completely agree with that, and it will ultimately be your guys' call. That's why I said we're preparing to be able to provide a live meeting, but we're not going to make that call as staff. Even if we go to green, and my recommendation is we don't even consider it till we go to green. Once we go to green, we still need to be able to space people out in the chamber. Social distancing will still be a thing once we get to that point. And so we may have to go in there, and once we get to green, and we'll do it before then, but we'll have a count as to what we think our capacity is, even with proper social distancing in that room, and see what that number is and bring that information to you guys. We want to provide the level of a meeting that's appropriate for what we're doing, and we want to be able to provide the level of service that you guys expected. recommend to us to provide. And so we just want to be able to provide you guys the options, and then we plan on letting you guys make the determination as to when that happens.
And I guess that just brings up a point to just say, why don't y'all just email me at some point in the next week your thoughts about council meetings, so that when we sit down to do the agenda, I'll know where each of you are coming from and the parameters that you'd like to see.
That would be really helpful. Any other questions about any of that? Okay, the widening is continuing. I need to ask that people riding their bikes follow the detour signs along the highway in 191. A lot of people are heading up the road because that's what they're used to. And them big orange signs are for cars, not for bikes. And I don't think they are really looking at them, and they get halfway up that road and realize there's no place for them. And then they're in this quandary of, well, do I keep going straight and try and get through this, or I turn around and go back the way I came and go back through it? So we've had a request from UDOT that we tell people that it's currently closed, that we're asking people to go down 400 north to 500 west and go back up to the highway that way. We realize it is a longer route, but for everyone's safety on their bikes and for everyone's safety on the job site, we're trying to emphasize that happen and that people follow the guidelines that are being laid out by Utah for the safety of the project. The project is on schedule. They're moving ahead. It's not ahead of schedule. It's not behind schedule. So right now it's doing just fine. They're finding some things underground. That is the beauty of doing projects like this. You always find some hidden infrastructure you didn't know existed, and you got to deal with it as you go. They're expecting to have the left-hand turn at 500 west and 191 open tomorrow and at the latest Thursday. So that little closure there is about to come to an end and open back up. There, I went down there at about 5 today and looked at it, and they were almost through the intersection tonight. So I think that will be open tomorrow, but they said Thursday at the latest. So that's kind of the latest on that. They're doing their best to work with the local businesses. There was a little bit of a hiccup late last week and earlier this week with some of the businesses, and telling them what their time frame closures were, and UDOT took care of that, and they got it back to an appropriate stance. So I think we're squared up on all of that. So that's the widening and where we're at with that. Any questions on any of that?
Joel, I'm sorry, I couldn't tell, like at 500, did they fix, I mean, there was quite a bit of conversation before the project started about fixing that intersection so it's actually safer for cyclists to cross instead of having to cross through traffic as people are, making a left. But I couldn't tell if that has been fixed or not. Do you know?
The crossings there were all backwards for bike traffic. It was completely bungled, but they have not fixed it yet, to my understanding. And my understanding is that that'll come later in the project once the new infrastructure is all installed, because to fix it now, they're going to end up tearing all of that back out. So that center lane and all of that's coming out. So I don't know if their plan is to fix it as they reopen that right now, because the upper part of that is still going to be closed and we're still going to be rerouting bike traffic. So my understanding, Karen, is they're going to fix it more towards the end of the project, not at this stage.
Gotcha. Okay.
All right. And then we had the protest that occurred this last Friday, and it went off really well. The protesters and the activists and those who were involved in the demonstration did an amazing job. They were awesome. They couldn't have been more respectful. I really want to thank the high school group that put on the demonstration downtown every night last week, because every morning when I would come into the office and I would drive down Main Street, they would have picked up every piece of garbage and everything that you couldn't even tell they'd ever been there. And they were extremely respectful and could not have been, kinder through that process. And I really enjoyed working with them last week, and I just can't thank them enough for their leadership and their presence and the things that they're doing for this community. And it's awesome. And I just can't thank those kids enough. And also the larger protest as a whole, same. The protesters were respectful, and they, you know, did what was expected, and I, you know, again, to them as well, the vast majority of them were very pleasant, very great to work with, and great to deal with. So the police department and the public works and the streets did a great job hosting it. We had several communities who came and provided additional assistance because we have a smaller force for this community and situations like that. And they provided us with additional forces in case we needed them. And, you know, that's not just for one side or the other, it's for both. And we had a lot of online threats last week for the protesters, and all those need investigated. And it's sickening, a lot of things that people will put online. And, you know, I want to thank the police for taking the efforts to ensure that the event was safe and safe for those who were participating in it, and making sure that both ends of the roads were blocked off with vehicles when we knew where people were going to be, so we didn't have that incident, and making sure people were on buildings, so if someone did something stupid to the protest itself, that there could be a quick response to that. And I just want to thank them for making sure that that event was safe for those who were involved in it. And I want to thank the streets department for quickly moving around and closing roads and keeping things picked up in the middle of a micro storm. And after the event ended, they were out till about midnight picking up tree branches and cleaning out drains on top of the event because of the storm that blew through. So I just thought it was a great event. I thought that the people who were participants did a great job, and I thought the staff and those who were in charge of providing for the safety and making sure it was a safe event for everyone, and that they could exercise their First Amendment rights. And we highly value that in the city, and we as a staff highly value that. And so I just want to thank those who participated and thank those who provided that space for them. It was great, and I look forward to more of it in the future. So, and lastly, I want to talk about the Bike Skills Park real quick, but not about the Bike Skills Park in itself. It is the latest item that's come up that is one of many that just really emphasizes the need for the community to follow our agendas. They come out on Thursdays, sometimes on Fridays, but almost always on Thursdays. They're usually about 2 pages long. You can read them in 4 minutes and you know what's on there. And then they have hyperlinks on them if you read them online. If there's questions about a project, you can click those hyperlinks and get the materials right then. You can answer a lot of your questions. And then you know if there's something on the agenda that you want to take the time to watch the meeting about. But I've heard repeatedly, you know, this not just this issue, it's not a bike skills issue, it just brought this issue back to light. But I hear repeatedly from people, you know, we didn't know this was happening. And we say, well, it was on this agenda, this agenda, this agenda. The response is, well, I don't read those. It's key. I know people don't have 5 hours, 4 hours to watch every meeting we do, but just read the agenda if nothing else. They're 4 minutes to read it. It's quick. The links are there. You can stay really informed just by reading that to see what's going on and educating yourself with the materials that are provided there as well. And so, you know, most of the time you'll read them and there won't be anything on there that interests you. That's, you know, it's boring. What we do is boring unless you're a nerd like us. So, but I just encourage people to really try and follow our agendas. You know, short of everyone knocking on your door, there's just got to be some level of proactivity to getting out there and finding out what's going on, because we can put it in the paper and we can put it online and we can put it on our webpage and we can put it on the agendas. But unless people go out and actively seek that information, it's not going to come find you. So I just want to really encourage people to follow it. That's it.
Well, thank you, Joel, so much. Moving right along on our agenda. Oh, you know what? I do want to say like an actual thank you very much, not just thanks for the report, but thank you for your role in working with staff last Friday, because that was a real coordinated effort to make sure that the protesters were, you know, safe, and that they had the ability to practice their freedom of speech. And you really did a lot to support staff. And I just wanted to thank you. And from all of us, thank you very much for your leadership. These are really tough times.
Yeah, thank you.
Tricky time to be a city manager.
There's a lot going on. It's not a boring job right now. The police and the chief did an amazing job. The level of threats we were receiving towards the event by Tuesday and Wednesday were pretty high, and we take them serious. And you just have to watch the news to see that you need to take them serious. You see that there's actions taken at these events all the time that are not appropriate, but people reacting, not acting at the event. So, but they did a great job securing everyone's safety and making sure that actors on the outside were quelled and looked into, and if we could identify people to be investigated.
You did a great job too. Thank you for your role. Just say you're welcome.
I said thank you.
We're really grateful for you. Okay. We are now at section 5 of our agenda, citizens to be heard. For this portion of the agenda, we have asked that people submit their comments online. And I just wanted to pull up and report that we have received, oh, I might have closed the tab.
26.
Oh, I was just about to go call. Okay, count. Thank you, Summer. 26 comments of citizens to be heard, and then those comments will be made available on our city website and the right-hand side of our website. You can see the button where you can view the comments of citizens to be heard. Section 6, proclamations. 6.1, the City of Moab proclamation. I don't intend to read this proclamation tonight because I already read it and posted it on social media. But I did want to reiterate the conclusion of that, which is now therefore, we, Emily S. Niehaus, Mayor of the City of Moab, and Brett Edge, Police Chief of the City of Moab, hereby proclaim that the City of Moab pledges to review our current police use of force policies, engage community members, including a diverse range of input, experiences, and stories in our review, report the findings of our review to our community and seek feedback, and regularly evaluate, modernize, and evolve our community's police use of force policies. I just want to say thank you to Brett for co-signing that proclamation with me, and for staff's help in crafting the proclamation. It's a big deal, and it's going to take time for Brett to do that internal review. He does plan to present to us at the next meeting his initial review and steps for us to expect to follow through with what we put in that proclamation. And so next meeting, report from Chief, and then future engagement will be outlined, organized and outlined between Brett and between the Chief and Lisa Church, our communications engagement director. And that's it for that.
Mayor,
Mike?
Mayor, if I may ask, I thought the proclamation was very nice. Who wrote it?
It was an effort among staff, and Joel penned a good portion of it. And then Brett and I edited and reviewed it. I think that Joel and I and Carly talked about what we wanted to see in it.
Thank you very much. I thought it was nice.
Tawny?
And can I just piggyback on what you said at the very end there about a report from the chief? County Attorney Christina Sloan did an interview on KZMU. If you haven't listened to it, she did a really good job, and she addressed exactly that, police work in our community, and how she'd like to see things going forward on a countywide scale. And she addressed some of the issues that we've had in the past. And it was a really good interview. It was about 40 minutes long, but it was really worth the time to sit and listen.
Thank you. I'm sure she'll be part of that engagement process as we move forward with our policy revision with the PD, or policy review. Okay, moving on, we are now at section 7, our public hearing. An hour later than expected. So 7.1, proposed ordinance 2020-07, an ordinance amending chapter 3.5, master fee schedule of the Moab Municipal Code to update and modify certain fees and rates charged by the city. As you all know, for public hearings, we will typically have a brief presentation, and then we move into the public hearing comments to be made. So I think we do have Clint to present. Sorry, sorry, is Clint, do we have a presentation?
I think Chuck is going to discuss it and we'll take it from that.
Okay. That's right. I forgot who was going to present. And there you are, Chuck, with your boat behind you. Joining us from the river.
Shall I go ahead then, Mayor?
Yes, please.
If you'll recall, I'll keep this brief. We have had 2 council workshops and 1 council meeting talking about water rates. And we've talked about it twice with the Drought Management and Water Conservation Board. And after the last meeting with council, I took what I could from the input and working with Clint and Zion's Bank. We came up with, if you recall, we had presented option A, B, and C. And I got I sensed more support for option C. And then we also worked with Councilman Jones last week to come up with an option E, which had some different characteristics. And so in this agenda packet, we put in choices of option C or option E seem to be.
Uh-oh, Chuck, you are frozen. And I suppose if you're frozen, you don't know that you're frozen. Unless I'm the one that's frozen, but I'm seeing giggles, which means the problem's not me today. But not yet anyway. Okay. C and E. And gosh, I bet Chuck, we're gonna lose Chuck and then he's, yep, gonna pop up. Oh, good. And you're back. And you're muted.
Can you hear me now? Sorry about that.
Yes. No worries. No worries.
Let me share my screen. Are you sure? Can you see my screen or do you see me?
I see you.
Okay. Let me try this then.
And now I see you sharing your screen.
Okay, thank you. This is option C, and just the highlights of it, if you recall, were that currently rates are $10 for base rate for residential in city. Next year, they would increase to $13 for the base rate. However, the commercial rate would increase under option C by 50%. Currently, it's $25 a month base rate. It would go up to $37.50. Down in the usage rates, there's usage rates for, and so the usage rates for residential would increase by the same, by 50%, but
Jesse.
Hello? But the usage rates here would increase not by that straight percentage, and then there'd be 5% increases thereafter to account for inflation. And then we'll change screens. You can see this is option E. Option E took a little different approach to it in that instead of increasing the base rate for residential $3, it would increase it $3.50 to $13.50 a month. And to get through difficult year with all the economy's been through. And then next in 2022, increase the base rates again by 30%. The idea behind that is because the base rates represent The closer you can get that to 40 to 50% of your revenue sources, the more stable of a revenue stream you have, even though we all recognize that the largest users down in this area require a larger system. So there's an argument to be made that they should pay more. So this also has a higher rate increase down here than the 20% shown, but it's for the highest users of commercial inside and outside of the city. So those are the two rate structures that we put together before you tonight. I want to apologize. There was some mix-ups in getting some of the supporting documentation from the packet into your packet. The draft rate study council had seen before, but I understand it didn't make it onto the website. And also, I wanted to show you, oops, back to this real quick, and then I'll be done, I think this is of value too. Council has seen this before, but for the public, this is a comparison of residential water rates for 15 similar Utah cities, with populations being in this column, in income, the base rates, and you can see the Moab has the lowest, currently the lowest rates of these 15 similar sized cities in the state of Utah. And in fact, we believe it's the lowest rate of any city in the state. And the average rate is $28, and under option C, the increase would be to $13, and under option E, the increase would be to $13.50 next year. That's all that I have, unless there's any questions.
So Chuck, if I may ask, trying to digest C versus E, and thanks, Kaylin, for working on that with you. C, as compared to E, then seems to have a little higher rate increases in water use rate increases as opposed to base rate increases. Therefore, and that's true for both residential and commercial users. So if it was a goal for council to incentivize lower consumption of water, which, as we know, is a scarce resource and sure to get scarcer, then we might well opt for option C rather than E. Have I got that much correct?
I think that the rate increases in C for the larger users of both residential and commercial are higher percentage increases in option E. You are correct in that regard. Yeah.
And I just want to point out here before we go any further that this is public hearing and that we will have opportunity to have discussion. So I actually want to stop us there because we're in the public hearing section. If it's all right with you, council members, I'd rather move on to receiving comments and save this discussion for when we get to the agenda item. Would that be okay? Okay. Chuck, did you have anything else that you wanted to present?
No, I think that's an overview of it, yes.
Thank you so much. Let's go ahead and unshare your screen so that I can see everybody, if that's okay. And Summer, I just want to check in with you. There was a question about whether or not we were going to be able to accommodate one individual who wanted to call in for the public hearing as opposed to Zoom in.
That's correct. I called that person and left a message with the instructions on how to participate. I have not seen that person enter the waiting room, but I did forward the voicemail that I received for your information, which did have some of the comments.
Okay.
But I haven't seen anyone, that person hasn't joined in the waiting room yet.
Okay, so council, we did receive for the record the comments that were made via message. That one person did make, that did hope to participate in this public hearing, but technology restricted. Okay, but it sounds like we made accommodations to make sure that that individual could call in, but has not done so. So were there any other individuals, Summer, for this agenda item?
No one else registered for either of the public hearings except for the one that I sent earlier.
Okay, so then I will entertain a motion to close this public hearing, knowing that members of the community can still comment and reach out to us, although the public hearing portion of this item would be closed. And I entertain that motion to close this public hearing.
I move to close this public hearing.
Thank you, Kaylin. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Tawny. We'll roll call vote. Mike?
Aye.
Kaylin?
Aye.
Karen?
Aye.
Ronnie?
Aye.
Tawny?
Aye.
Okay, moving to 7.2, proposed ordinance 2020-08, an ordinance of the City Council of Moab annexing the Lionsback Holdings LLC property located at 938 and 940 South Highway 191 to the City of Moab and assigning the zone of C4 commercial to the parcel. Laura, we have a presentation.
Sure. Can you all hear me okay? Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay. So I'm going to give a very brief presentation. Your packet contained a long list of attachments and a lot of information, and I'm not going to repeat that here. That was also information that I gave to the Planning Commission, and at the Planning Commission meeting, I spent quite a bit of time talking about annexations and what they are and what they aren't and why it's different than other kinds of legislative acts that we do as a city. And if you're interested in that whole presentation about annexations, you can certainly tune in to the YouTube of the Planning Commission meeting, which was their May 14th, 2020 Planning Commission meeting. And that was basically the only item on the agenda. So if you want the whole dog and pony show about annexations, I encourage you to watch that. I'm not going to give it tonight. I'd be happy to answer any questions. So briefly, very briefly, thank you. I'm going to share my screen. Maybe. Okay. Okay, can you see that? Yeah, can you see the PowerPoint?
Yep, we
Yes,
can see
okay.
your screen and the LBH annexation.
Yes, good. Okay, very briefly, this is, well, I don't know what that's about. Quite briefly, this is a request for an annexation that was made by Lionsback Holdings LLC, which is not to be confused with the Lionsback project that was approved further up Sand Flats Road. It happens to be this company happens to be named Lionsback Holdings, but there's no direct relationship to the Lionsback project, just to make sure that that's clear. The address is 938 and 940 South Main Street, so immediately south of our existing city limits. Existing use, there's some existing commercial buildings on the site, and the proposed use is for a lodging or hotel. So this is the county zoning map. And the parcels in question is right here. And I'm sorry that this is so small, but there's one parcel here, which leads to Highway 1191. And then this is the larger parcel, which is zoned general business and rural residential. And that's in the county because it's currently in the county. This is the city zoning. This is C4. The parcel is right here off of this parcel. And then this parcel is, and you can see the commercial buildings in this parcel. And then this is the access to the highway. So that the hotel itself, once it's built, will be back further from the highway.
This is a copy of the annexation plat, which is required. This is actually the document, one of the documents that gets recorded. And just to give you a brief kind of background on the process this has taken, the annexation petition was received on February 5th. City Council agreed to consider the annexation, not to approve it or anything else, but at least to consider it. And based upon that, the city recorder reviewed the petition for completeness and issued the required certification, which is defined by state law, and it's a very specific thing with very specific noticing requirements. On March 25th, 2020, as required by state law, it was published for 2 or 3 consecutive weeks in the newspaper, and mailed notice was given to all of the affected entities, which are mostly our service providers primarily. There is a 30-day protest period from the date of the certification. That March 25th date, we did not receive any protests. So, the process is moving forward. During that, prior to all of this, the city and the petitioner entered into a pre-annexation agreement on January 28th, 2020. That was approved by the city council on a split vote. And what that pre-annexation agreement does, and a copy was included in the packet, basically says, if we're going to consider annexation of this, and if we decide to annex it at some point in the future, these are the restrictions or additional requirements that the city and the applicant agree to. And the pre-annexation agreement covered the kinds of things that we were looking at for development standards for new overnight accommodations. And in some case, the applicant has really agreed to go above and beyond the things that we were actually discussing. And for details on that, you can certainly review the pre-annexation agreement. So that brings us basically, that went to the Planning Commission as well. They forwarded a positive recommendation, again on a non-unanimous vote. Given the fact that the pre-annexation agreement had been entered into, the Planning Commission didn't feel like they had an awful lot of discretion. And so they went ahead and recommended that you approve the annexation. And these are the items that were set forth in the pre-annexation agreement, that it would be zone C4. There be specific project standards covering all of these items listed in this list. And then the annexation criteria. This is the criteria that must be met for city acceptance of an annexation. And I will go through this, but again, this is from our annexation law, and it mimics the state annexation law. So these are the findings, as well as some other findings that exist in the draft ordinance that you would be required to make in order to approve the annexation. So I'd be happy to answer any questions. I wasn't intending to go into a lot more detail on this unless you want additional information.
I don't think any at this time, because it's a public hearing again. Let's save our conversation or questions for the future agenda item that we'll receive. Thank you so much for that presentation. That's very helpful, not only for this public hearing, but for the public to understand what is being proposed and how it's been proposed and the process behind it. Thank you so much, Nora. Let's go ahead and unshare your screen. And just so that I can see council. And as we heard Summer say before, there are no submitted requests for speaking to this public hearing item. So is there a motion to close the public hearing?
I so move to close the public hearing.
Thank you, Mike. Is there a second? Karen?
Second.
Thank you. I will roll call vote. Karen?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Kaylin?
Aye.
Lonnie?
Aye.
Bonnie?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes to close the public hearing. Thank you, both Chuck and Nora, for those presentations. We're now in old business section 8.8.1, proposed resolution 14-2020, a resolution adopting the fiscal year 2020. We don't have Clint. Where? There you are.
I can leave if you want, but I'm here. So, so this is what this being the whole business. I don't have a presentation put together. This is the budget that we have been discussing and working towards the last couple of meetings. This is a budget that we need to push forward, knowing that there will be budget amendments going forward with COVID and everything else. It's kind of where we're at. From what I've learned, we need to have the budget approved by June 22nd, and our next meeting is the 23rd. So for this and the next couple of agenda items, I'm just going to put it out there. If there's questions or anything else that we can go over, I'm an open book, and I'm sure Joel and everyone else is as well.
Thanks so much for that. Then we will move through these items. For item 8.1, is there a motion? From this council. Sorry, Kaylin.
I move to adopt proposed resolution 14-2020, adopting the fiscal year 2020-2021 annual budget.
Thank you, Kaylin, for a second. Tawny?
I'll second.
Thank you. Discussion. Reminder again, this is just us passing what we need to pass and amendments to come. Tawny?
I just want to, reiterate what Clint said, that we know full well that there will be budget amendments and budget openings on this. This will probably be one of the more complicated budgets we pass, but I think staff's done a yeoman's work in putting this together to this point that we can move forward with it. Thank you, guys.
It was one of the more complicated budgets before COVID.
Yeah. Good work. All right. Any other comments? I'll call for the vote. Ronnie.
Oh, aye. Never mind. Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you have a comment?
Oh, it's okay. It was actually just a question. So I know we're voting on the current budget. I didn't know, are we expecting maybe like at our next meeting that we might have another update on COVID related budget stuff?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Aye.
Just for information purposes, we should have some news by the end of the week of where our sales tax came in for May. So April. So it'll be very interesting to see what the numbers came out to.
Okay, I'm going to officially call for the vote now. Ronnie.
Aye.
Tawny.
Aye.
Kaylin.
Aye.
Mike.
Aye.
Karen.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. 8.2, proposed ordinance 2020-9, an ordinance adopting the City of Moab pay plan schedule and adopting the exempt and elected official salaries for fiscal year 2020-2021. Again, same sentiment from Clint that we pass and move forward. I would entertain discussion or motion. Ronnie?
So I know Joel gave us an alternate motion. I just had a question of clarification. I think I have the right numbers, but I don't know if I should make the motion because I might get the numbers wrong. But I did have a question. Is it appropriate or not in the motion or in the document that goes with this, just to clarify that we, as elected officials are given 3 options, just on how to exercise these salary offerings. I mean, I have them written out from Danny from the past, but I just was unclear on procedure, if I should make that part of my motion or if that's really more something that shows up in the document.
It can be a part of the discussion, or it can be a part of the document. If you make it a part of your motion, that's perfectly fine as well. And in fact, it probably carries more force because at that point, it's the only way it can be construed. So in the motion, it's perfectly fine.
Okay, well, I guess it was just helpful to me from a transparency basis, just to clarify in the motion that we are given as elected officials, options. We can take our salary and use it to purchase health insurance through the city, or we can take it all as salary, or we have the option to take a lesser amount. And so I didn't know if anyone would object to my putting that in a motion, and then I can see if I can get it all in a motion.
I'd say throw out your motion and see if it sticks.
Oh, let me see if I can find the right numbers from Joel. Hold on a second. Oh, bugger. Okay, hold on. Sorry, I have so many emails from Joel.
Is it the one from 3:47 this afternoon?
Let me see. I know it was the second one with other numbers. Oh crap! It might be.
I think I have it in front of me, Ronnie, if you like.
Okay, go for it.
Yeah, here we go. I make a motion to approve agenda item 8.2, ordinance 2020-09, adopting the City of Moab pay plan schedule and adopting the exempt and elected official salaries for fiscal year 2020 through 21, with an amendment to include salary and benefit options for elected officials to reflect those that were approved for January 1st, 2020 to June 30th, 2020 in the fiscal year ending 20 budget. These include a salary for the mayor of $12,922 and benefits of $24,418 for a total compensation of $37,410, and a salary for council members of $7,826 and benefits of $21,977 for a total compensation of $30,814. End of motion.
Thank you, Mike. Is there a second request for a friendly amendment? What's Ronnie?
So just request for a friendly amendment if Mike would consider adding one sentence to that.
What is that sentence?
Yeah, sorry, technologically challenged, one moment. And then to add to that, and staff can tell me if this is wrong, but council and mayor do have 3 options in the coming year. 1, to take the salary and purchase health insurance with benefits amount through the city. 2, to take the combined salary and benefits amount of salary. Or 3, take a lesser amount of salary or compensation. Period.
Mike, are you willing to accept that amendment to your motion? Or which is including what Ronnie just said? You're on mute. Sorry.
Yeah, I have Ronnie's letter that I think she's referring to somewhat differently. I think I asked Ronnie to state exactly what she wants to say because I'm not sure how to restate it despite her letter in front of me.
I don't think you have to restate it. I think if you're comfortable saying you're comfortable with what she's suggesting, then that would work as a motion.
I would ask Ronnie to restate it again so I won't affirm something that I'm not sure what she said. Pardon me.
Okay, no worries. Ronnie, can you restate?
Okay, well, it would be the same motion Mike read, and then as his last sentence ends, then it would say, council and mayor have three options in the coming year. One, to take the salary and purchase health insurance with the benefits amount through the city. Two, to take the combined salary and benefits amount as salary. Or three, to take a lesser amount of salary or compensation. Period.
I approve that amendment.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Ronnie. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Kaylin, for your second. Discussion? Seeing none, I will call for the vote. Tawny,
Aye.
Karen,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Kaylin,
Aye.
Ronnie.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. 8.3, proposed ordinance 2020-07, an ordinance amending chapter 3.5 master fee schedule of the Moab Municipal Code to update and modify certain fees and rates charged by the city. And again, we may see amendments to this as we're moving through all things COVID. And but this is where we are, and I would entertain a motion or discussion prior to a motion. Ronnie?
I just have a question. So in the master fee schedule, well, one question to start. I think, the way it's presented in our packet, it has our current water rates, right? So is the idea that when we do make a motion, we'll be suggesting insertion of one of the options?
That is a great question. And from what I understand, we're voting as is, knowing that we will be coming back to the master fee schedule with amendments as we move forward with the master fee, the all things rates. Joel, is that correct?
Is that correct, Clint?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So again, funny numbers this year where we're being asked to approve something that is before us with, go ahead, Clint.
So it's my understanding that if we can pick one of the water rates tonight, it will be added to this schedule. So it's on that schedule going forward. That's the way I understood it tonight. So it would be the fee schedule that we had on in past, but if you guys pick a water rate at this time, that'll be added to that schedule going forward.
Okay. Does that make sense to the council?
A little bit.
So in other words, this is our opportunity to discuss the public hearing item about culinary water rate.
Yep. Yep.
Or are we expected to pass this master fee schedule and come back to the water rates? I guess that's what I'm confused about.
I think that is up to you guys. You can pass it with the water rates being changed, from my understanding, or you can pass it as is with where the water rates currently are.
Okay. So if a council member wanted to make a motion to approve the ordinance 07 as it is, then that would essentially lock us into water rates of yesterday. Help me out.
Yes.
And just for clarity to the council, I would suggest that if you adopt the fee schedule, you address in your motion that you're adopting the water rates as they were yesterday, as you want them to be in one of the, I would just make it a part of your motion so it's clear.
So then I guess we need as a council to have some deliberation around the options that were presented in the public hearing and see if we can settle on that. And then once we feel like we're settled on that, we get a motion. Yes?
And Mayor, I think as we work through COVID and we work through our revenue issues and we reopen the MARC and the MRAC, we are going to be amending the fee schedule to match the analysis that we are doing with what we need to be charging for things that we have historically charged too little for. So I'm completely comfortable with motions made to adopt the fee schedule with the water rates being what they currently are prior to the motion. And we adopt a new water schedule, new water rates as we go forward. I'm fine with it, but the fee schedule is going to be just like the budget. It's coming back to you.
So then really the question is to this council, do we want to be proactive and go ahead and have the discussion about the water rates now or at a future meeting? And if at a future meeting, it's an amendment.
Oh, Mayor, if I may suggest, I can try a motion specifying.
No, I don't yet want to actually entertain the motion because I think I see Tawny's hand up, but I would like some discussion and see where this council is resting with water rates before. Go ahead, Tawny.
Can I clarify? Whatever we adopt on the water rates, they don't go into effect until the calendar year, or do they go into effect this fiscal year, beginning July 1st?
They would go into effect they would go into effect with the fee schedule. So July 1st, not.
Okay.
calendar year.
Okay.
So our next bill would be an increase if we were to change the fees. Kaylin?
So I think given the capital needs, it's appropriate to go ahead and adopt one of the new water rate fee schedules, just so that the city staff can start planning for that. I did put some time into option E, and I'm a little concerned that the information sort of dribbled out to the council, and I would like the opportunity to make an argument for it, but if we're not going to deal with it tonight, then I can refrain.
Well, why don't I do this? Because I am concerned, or not concerned. I am curious of the council, and we can do this for a straw poll. Who's feeling comfortable with Kaylin's option E approach?
Option E?
Yeah, the approach that Kaylin has been working on.
I would like the opportunity to discuss before I have an opinion.
Okay.
Mine too. That's the same with me too, Mayor. I'd like to hear from Kaylin actually.
Okay. Awesome. Kaylin, convince us.
So with option E, I tried to address several things that I heard in the prior discussions. One was that Susie from Zions said that having a higher base rate helps with stability of income, and that's evidenced by the approach of the other comparison communities. We're the lowest, and it seems like even with the proposed some of the other proposed fee schedules, we didn't really raise it that much. So I didn't go as far as, we would still be on the low end, but raising it a little bit more, but splitting that raise over 2 years because of the impacts of COVID to our ratepayers, both residential and commercial. So those are two factors. The third was that we were given sample bills for different levels of water use. But in reviewing the actual levels of water use of different customer groupings, commercial, there's actually businesses that use 200,000 plus gallons a month. So there's actually these commercial tiers way sort of beyond what we had been presented. And I heard, like, when I was talking about some of these things at our last meeting, Karen made a comment that, small businesses aren't necessarily able to absorb big rate increases any more than some residential users. So I tried to really load the commercial rate increases towards that very high end, because I think those are the users that we really want to incentivize conservation with, and they can pass those on to their customers potentially. So that's what I was trying to accomplish. And
Question for you, Kate, on that last subject. So if I'm reading this right, over a 2-year period, commercial use rates under your option E would only total over the 2 years 40% for option E, whereas under option C, for example, over a 2-year period, similarly, it'd be 55%. So if you're trying to hit those big, heavy tier commercial users heavier, then wouldn't option C give us more revenue?
So one thing that's confusing about those tables is that the yellow highlighted ones are, that's a way that the Chuck, Susie, and I I followed their lead to document where the actual rates differ from what you see at the top of that section. So, so C and E, those top tier are actually higher. I don't remember what the number is. I'm on my Chromebook and I don't have the spreadsheet open. Maybe Clint or Chuck could chime in. So the lower tier, so you're right, in E, the lower tier commercial rates are lower, but those upper tier are the same.
I would agree with that. The upper tier is the same. So you're still hitting the higher user the same amount. There's just more of a break for the lower user, the person that doesn't use quite as much water. There's a little bit of a break. It doesn't hit them as hard.
But the business that doesn't.
Very much. Yep. Correct.
Okay. Well, if I may, I would point out then that so far as we were also concerned, you remember, about not penalizing the relatively low volume residential user with hitting them with too big of a base rate increase. Option E, Kaylin, if I got this right, over 2 years again, it would total 65%. That's quite a big jump. Whereas under option C, it would only total 35%. That's just the base rates. And I hear your argument about, as Susie would say, it makes it easier to get loans and so forth, but it does hit that low-end residential user pretty hard in the paper, in the pocketbook, almost twice the rate. 65 as opposed to 35%. So that's quite a differential.
It is in terms of percentage, but it's just a few dollars per customer.
It's not a lot per dollar, and it hits them at a slower amount. I think it looked to me like you guys brought in COVID a little bit, so it wouldn't hit them quite as hard that first year, and it would build from there.
Exactly.
Well, Clint, do you want to chime in on your opinion? You've had a chance to look at all this maybe in some detail. What do you think?
I think overall it builds slower with option E, but I think it gets you where you want to go. It's not as aggressive as the other A, B, and C's plans in that first year, and which I think is good with everything we're all dealing with and what the community is dealing with. But over time, it gets you where you want to be. I think it's a good happy medium, personally. Chuck, do you have any other responses? I think you're still on there. Maybe not.
No, I'm here, and I'd agree with you. I think that as Susie and I worked with Kaylin to develop it, that was sort of the goal that I think we had in mind, among the other things that Kaylin identified just a few minutes ago. I'd agree with you. And it allows us to get some capital improvement projects started, and it'll make our operations budget whole this next year, as opposed to being $100,000 in the hole, which I think are the projections if we don't raise the rate.
Okay, so then just to confirm what the two of you just said, you guys are not only comfortable with option E, but you might prefer it to C. Am I hearing you guys say that?
I would personally prefer it to C because I think it gets us where we want to go, but it's not as aggressive, loaded up front.
And I would agree with that. I think option E would be the preferential one that would let us get going. Those C would work as well.
So then if a council member wanted to make a motion to approve the fee schedule, but include this option, they could just say that in the motion.
I move to adopt ordinance 2020-07, an ordinance amending chapter 3.50 master fee schedule, the Moab Municipal Code, to update and modify certain fees and rates charged by the city, including proposed culinary rates option E.
Thank you, Kaylin. Is there a second? Tawny?
I'll second that.
Thanks. Any about this fee schedule for the water rate? Ronnie?
Oh, can you repeat what you just said? Sorry, I lost it. I think you said did you say comments or questions?
Comments, yeah, comments.
Well, one of my questions, so I mean, it seems to me like options A, B, C, and E all, generate the 8.5 million in, bonding capacity, and they all, but when I looked at the chart for E, one of my questions was, should I be concerned that that's the one that seems to have, in 2021, the debt coverage ratio is below what we say our target minimum is. And then in 2022, our days of cash on hand are lower than we say what we want our minimum to be. I didn't see that with the other three options, so I didn't know how heavily I should weigh that. That was one question. I have a few more.
May I answer that one now?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so that's a good question. I had the same question, Ronnie, and I spent time, I wasn't able to get the phone call until yesterday with Alex Buxton from Zions Bank, who's I think council's familiar with. He's helped us on other bonding before, and he looked at this. We spent about 45 minutes with Susie on this, and he says that it's doable. He doesn't think that it would be a problem. There's a method that they use for that. It's called direct placement of the bonding as opposed to putting out nationwide. And he's had recent success with other local bonds of getting good rates that were below what they thought they were going to get. So the direct answer is Zions Bank thinks that that's completely doable, even though that's a flag of the range that they had told us before. I'd agree. You're exactly right. But we followed up with them and they said that that's bondable. And I could have had him on the call tonight. It's just I never knew when to get him to tell him we were going to call him. But he did tell me that that's doable. That won't be a problem if you move
Okay,
forward.
and then just two other questions. We got that attachment sent with the option E details, and I just wanted to check under the tiering for residential in city and residential out of city, it indicates an initial 20% increase and then 5% each year, but that isn't reflected in the numbers. So did we just forget to calculate that? I mean, I could calculate it myself. On my chart, 2021 on is just the same as 2019 and 2020.
Chuck, can you answer that? I'm sorry, I'm on my Chromebook and my ability to deal with this on the fly is anemic.
I'm guessing it just didn't get carried through on the spreadsheet, but.
And if you wouldn't mind saying that again, Ronnie, I didn't hear it all exactly either.
So if you look at the culinary water rate option E fee details sheet, the second section is residential in city, and it has the tiered rates. And the third category is residential outside of city with the tiered rates. And if you go to the third column, starting with 2021, it indicates there should be a 20% increase, but it's not reflected in the numbers. They're just the same as 2020.
Oh, yeah, that's an error.
Okay, so I can just do the math and run that for myself for those two. And I guess my question I'm just still struggling with a bit between C and E is, if I look, say, at 2023 for C and E, and I say, okay, well, if I look at 2023, I will have had a 70% increase in the base rate and a 30% increase in the residential in-city rate, and most of the rates, except I think when you get to commercial, you go up to 45%. Whereas if I look at C, by the time I get to 2023, I have a 40% increase in residential and 60% increase across the board on the tiered rates. And I guess I'm still just personally struggling mentally with, I understand from Susie from Zion's that there are some advantages to having a higher base rate, but at some point I'm still struggling mentally with if it's not better to have a higher percentage charged for the tiers. And especially in C, we start increasing the tiers over 10,000 gallons right in 2021. And I do see that they're incrementally increasing by 20% for the first 2 years in Schedule E. So, I mean, eventually you get to the same point, but I just, I'm struggling a little bit with why it's not better to have higher percentages across the board for the tiers, because that just seems to me where you have more impact on consumption and a more gradual increase for our residents over time, which it seems much more gradual to me with C, like it goes $13, $13.65, $14.33, as opposed to $13.50, $17.55, $18.43. So if they, I guess I'm just struggling because I feel like if they yield the same bonding capacity and they both could produce good debt coverage ratios and days of cash on hand, personally, I don't understand why C isn't better.
I don't even know what you said. I don't know what you were saying.
Sorry, I don't know exactly how to explain it other than I compared C and E and I looked at the columns for what the percent increase was. You know, say for, you know, residential in city, like how much, what is the percent increase per year? And then what's the percent increase per year for, you know, if I use more than 3,000 gallons, how much, you know, are each of those, how much is my rate going to increase over time? And it just seems to me like if I choose C, I'm basically charging the people who use more than 3,000 gallons more. And then my base rate is staying lower gradually for residential customers than if I go with E, where the base rate for customers goes up faster and the overall percentage that I'm charging people per gallon, per 1,000 gallons is less. And it just, I'm really struggling with the consumption end of that because it seems better to me to charge a higher percentage when you're using more than 3,000 gallons.
So Ronnie, I think you're making the same argument I started off making a few minutes ago. And their response for E was, even though the percentage rates look higher, it's only a few dollars more. That's the way I read both sides for what that's worth.
Kaylin, can you respond to that question?
I'll try, although it's a little challenging. You know, the rates are going to go up regardless. People are going to notice. We'll probably get pushback. People will be incentivized to conserve. We need to do other conservation methods as well. It looks like the Water Conservation Board will be having that discussion at their next meeting. As I mentioned last time, there are incentive programs out there that we could be promoting more within our community. So I think we should move towards conservation, but you know, I was targeting trying to get roughly the same debt coverage ratios and days cash on hand, but have the greater stability of the higher base rate. So I hear what you're saying, but I'm disinclined to lean on it so heavily, lean on rates so heavily to accomplish our water conservation goals. And I also get the impression, like, and this is something that I share, that let's focus on the largest businesses that are really high water users for where we incentivize the conservation measures.
So at this point, I think we should just see if the motion carries, and if not, then maybe we can look at an alternative motion. How about that? So I will call for the vote unless there's any further burning comments from this council. Okay, calling for the vote. Kaylin.
Aye.
Ronnie.
Nay.
Tawny.
Aye.
What was that?
Aye.
Karen.
Nay.
Mike. Mike.
I'm sorry, nay.
Okay, so the motion does not pass. Is there an alternative motion?
I will make an effort to do so. It's identical to the motion that Kaylin just made, with the exception of substituting the letter C for Charlie in place of E for Echo.
Summer, is that good for you for a motion?
Yep.
Is there a second?
I'll
Ronnie?
second.
Discussion. I'll call for the vote. Ronnie.
Aye.
Tawny.
Aye.
Mike.
Aye.
Kaylin.
Nay.
Karen.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Good job on deliberation, all.
4-1.
Oh, what did I say?
4-1, I believe, Mayor.
Okay, sorry. I don't even know what I said. I think I just did an autopilot there. Motion passes 4-1. Did I say 4-0? Okay. I didn't mean to zero you out, Kaylin. I apologize. 4-1. Okay, item 8.4, yard waste disposal options. This is a discussion only. Joel? Oh, yeah, Ronnie, is there a point of order?
Just quick question. Did you need a motion from us to approve the fee schedule with this option, or was that a given? I just want to make sure.
What you just passed, the motion was approving the fee schedule with the water rates at option C.
Thank you. I apologize for not listening properly.
No, well, I should just circle back. Is that what the rest of the council believes they just voted on? Yes. Okay. Okay. Made me nervous there. Okay. So discussion in yard waste, Joel, please.
So I think we can do this one relatively quickly. What we're looking for as staff is a little bit of direction going forward. We've had the burn ban, which Mike brought back up a few weeks ago, and it comes up every spring and fall for us. So we wanted to talk about, I provided those materials, whether or not we wanted to discontinue the burn ban, whether or not we wanted to develop a chip yard waste resident fee program, whether or not we wanted to create a hauling program, which we had on here with monument waste because that's historically who we were talking about a bulk day. This is a little bit different than that. And like I said earlier, I've talked to Evan today, and we would go and get into conversations with both Monument Waste and Evan about how to make that program work. So I guess what we're looking from you as council is a little bit of discussion on whether you'd rather see the burn ban removed, whether or not you'd see a chipping program instituted, whether or not you'd like to see a hauling program instituted. So that's kind of what we are bringing to you tonight, is what direction do you want us as staff to start developing this program?
So let us do it this way. because I think this would be most efficient. I'm going to straw poll all of you, so get your thumbs ready, please. Who among you, and show me, this means yes. Who among you would still like to discuss a burn ban? The ability to burn yard waste in the city in the non-agricultural zone. Okay, no, okay, thumbs down. Okay, so that's good direction for staff. Now let's talk about, I will be so bold as to say my preference, which is a no haul option where we can institute a program with the city where for a fee we can pull our chipper around and make mulch out of yard waste at people's property. And then that could be a program that we could direct staff to develop. Show of thumbs, who would be interested in staff working that up and coming back to us? There is pretty good support, although there's a maybe coming, a strong maybe from Kalen. And maybe because he supports the third option of hauling to, maybe I should let you speak to that. How about that?
My hesitation is that I think there may be commercial outfits that provide chipping, and I'm just not sure about the city getting into competition with that. And given that we just had some layoffs, like I'm not sure about expanding our operations at this point. So that's my hesitancy. I'm generally in support of helping citizens chip their material on site.
Joel?
But it's just the way it gets done.
I think that's an excellent point, Kalen. And Kalen, a question I have for you is, how does the chipping program through the special service district work where they're creating that mulch and that debris?
It's stockpiled, and then we contract with someone with a tub grinder, and which is fed with a track hoe. So it's done on a very large scale at the Moab landfill site.
And residents have access to come up and purchase that for their use, correct?
Correct. But if it can be done on site, then it doesn't require that the material get there or get back. And so for customers without trucks or the desire to hire others, it could be more convenient.
Perhaps what we could look at is what it would look like for the city to do it and a potential RFP for having a private contractor take on that responsibility. Ronnie, you had something?
Oh, well, I just had a question to throw out there, something to think about. You know, one of the things we ran into with, committing to work on recycling with monument waste was the concern of some other people who wanted to provide that service, feeling like they would be in competition then and then they couldn't. So as we think through this, I'm just wondering, is there a scenario where it's an option for multiple people? I don't, with more people looking for work options now, I don't know if this community would tolerate, a business who wanted to offer hauling, like, you would pay them something and they would haul your vegetation, say, up to the solid waste district. Or if somebody had, not that this is the day to discuss goats, but if we decided we were okay with somebody bringing their goats over your yard to eat all your waste, would that be okay? I'm just wondering if this is like something that would necessarily go to one party, or if it would be an option open to multiple parties, just to throw that out there as we think through it.
I'm sorry, I was muted. Tani?
Okay, I wasn't sure if it was you or me. I think when I said thumbs up, I just wanted to see what the options were, not necessarily that we'd be in competition with commercial vendors that are providing that service, but I'd just like to see what that would look like, more so than taking anybody's business away. If we could offer it as some sort of a service, or I just want to see what it looks like.
So we can do some research and figure out whether or not we want to do an RFP, how many chipping services there are in town, whether or not the RFP is a better route to go, or whether or not we just want to get that information out that those are available. And then versus a city service, if we provided it for a cost to provide our chipper and go from there. And then we can also give you the information for hauling with either Monument Waste, Special Service District, or a third party. So we can provide all that information. I think after the last meeting, when the burn ban came back up, we were curious to see if there was a mood to change that based off that conversation and get this idea. So I think this probably gives us a good idea of what you guys are looking for to make a better informed decision going forward, knowing that none of these might be the option, but this is the information we need to make that decision.
Awesome. That sounds great. Final comment, Ronnie?
Oh, can I just ask one question, Joel, just so maybe you can clarify this for folks in the public? Because when we were getting questions from people who, were wishing that they could burn or were concerned with the burn ordinance, some people were reading, because I think in our description of solid waste, it includes yard waste and wood. And so some people were interpreting that to mean that they couldn't, say, have a fire in an outdoor barbecue pit, or they couldn't use their smoker to smoke meat, or they couldn't even barbecue. And I just, as I was reading through the state stuff and our local stuff, that's not how I interpreted it, but I can see how the wood one would be confusing. So I wanted to ask you.
No, that's not how we interpret it either. We interpret it to be, there's a couple like exceptions to that. Obviously the state agricultural exception, that's one to the burn ban that we have to comply with. The other is the way that burn ban language is in there. That would not be considered waste. That would be considered a recreational burn. You're not burning that material necessarily to get rid of it. And I realize some people may stockpile a down tree that they've cut up to burn in their yard pit, but that's not the goal at that point. They're using it for a recreational burn, for cooking food or marshmallows or stuff like that. So that would not be considered burning it for yard waste debris removal. We're more talking about someone building a pile and lighting a pile on fire that can cause out of control situations and all kinds of problems. Big plumes of smoke, that's what we're concerned with.
So one question for you, Joel, I guess, is if I understood Evan correctly, if the strategy were to be pursued for Monument Waste, for example, to haul things out to Klondike, wouldn't the issue of contaminated material come up as far as Evan was concerned? And I would not want to ruin his equipment.
Agreed. And I don't know, is Klondike where they're doing the chipping, Kaylin? I think it's up here, isn't it?
Right, it's in Moab. If it were contaminated, then it would probably would end up at Klondike.
They're just contractual reviews we need to do with the hauler rights and some of that situation to determine where we would haul it. But if we were hauling it, we would be hauling it up to the Special Service District here in town, where they would be able to mulch it up here in the landfill.
Okay, so it seems like staff has direction to move forward with this. And thank you for bringing it up, Mike, before, so that we can have this conversation and then we can have clarity. So
yeah, we really appreciate it as staff. This is something we get hung up on every year. And so getting some clarity what our programs could be and what we can do going forward is going to be a huge help.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on to section 9, new business, 9.1, proposed resolution 32-2020. A resolution of the City of Moab, Utah, consideration, discussion, and decision on whether the City of Moab shall impose a 0.1% sales and use tax to fund cultural facilities, recreational facilities, and zoological facilities, and botanical organizations, cultural organizations, and zoological organizations in the city. This is the RAP tax that we looked at before. And basically this, I would entertain the motion to put this forward to our community on the ballot.
I will.
Karen?
So if I may, Mayor, I would entertain exactly the motion you stated just a moment ago. I can restate it again if you like.
No, restating isn't necessary. Thank you, Mike. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Karen. Discussion? Seeing none, I will, Tawny.
There's just a comment. I was just going to say, this is like Joel has told us in the past that, you know, this is the last tourist-based tax that we haven't taken advantage of. And it's not going to generate great fortunes, but it's going to help us in some of the areas where we desperately need some revenue.
And I had a question real quickly, why this was new business, not old business, because this is a question of whether or not we put it forward to the voters. And so this isn't an idea in general that's going to keep coming up, and every time it pops up, it's a new question you're being presented with. So it will always be new business because it's a new idea, that a new motion, new action that needs taken.
Thank you, Joel. Okay, I will call for the vote. Ronnie,
Aye.
Tawny,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Kaylin,
Aye.
Karen.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Item 10, approval against the city of Moab. Tawny, is there a motion? Oh, you're muted.
Sorry. It's past my bedtime. I move to approve the bills against the city of Moab in the amount of $698,365.76.
Thank you, Tawny. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Kaylin. Discussion?
Our biggest one this time was the payment on the 100 West sewer line and our utility payments. So.
One other thing, sorry, real quick, because the utility payments reminded me. Levi Jones and I have been working with Rocky Mountain Power to get more lights going around the curve between City Market and out towards Maverick. That's really dark, and we've had a lot of people get hit right there, even in the short time I've been here. And so that is something we're going to bring to you, and that's going to be a cost increase to our utilities. And so that reminded me, and I wanted to get that word out there, that we're trying to do that now while we're having the longest days of the year before we get to the shortest days of the year.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see. All those in favor, Karen.
Aye.
Mike.
Aye.
Kaylin.
Aye.
Ronnie.
Aye.
Connie.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0, and we are at the end of our meeting. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I so move.
So moved.
Karen, is there a second?
I so second.
Thank you, Mike. All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned electronically. I can get clunky names, and I really appreciate everybody's participation this way. Have a good night.
Thank
Aye.
you. Good night.